Imagine your country strikes gold, a multi-billion-dollar discovery. But before the celebrations can even begin, you find out 85% of it has already been sold off. For Uganda, this isn't a what-if scenario. It's the very real story of how one of Africa's most promising gold deposits was acquired by a Chinese company for a fraction of its potential worth. It's a story about a massive $250 million investment, a nation's fight to control its own destiny, and the real-world fallout of a geopolitical chess match playing out on Ugandan soil. So, what led to this deal? What does it actually mean for Ugandans? And is this a golden opportunity for development, or just a gilded cage of dependency? This is a story about more than just gold. It's about the future of a nation and its place in a world where resources are power. For decades, Uganda's gold has been the stuff of legend and small-scale struggle. Artisanal miners, using little more than basic tools, have toiled in the rich soils of districts like Busia. But their efforts, while heroic, yielded only a tiny fraction of the country's true potential. While official domestic production hovered around just a few metric tons a year, it was a drop in the ocean. Beneath the surface, a much larger treasure lay waiting. A deposit of over 30 million tons of gold ore, nestled in the Busia Greenstone Belt, that promised to change everything. And then, a deal was struck that sent shockwaves through the region. A Chinese company, Wagai Mining, a subsidiary of the Liaoning Hongda Enterprise Group, invested $250 million to build Uganda's first-ever large-scale industrial gold mine. In return for the capital and technology, the company secured an 85% stake in the project. The Ugandan government was left with just 15%. Suddenly, the nation with the golden ticket was no longer in the driver's seat. Everyone started asking the same question: how did this happen? The deal of the century. To grasp just how big this deal is, you really have to take a closer look at the numbers, and they are nothing short of staggering. For years, Uganda's gold export figures seemed impressive on paper. In 2023 alone, the country reported exports worth an eye-watering $3.4 billion. But here's the catch. Most of that gold wasn't actually Ugandan at all. It was smuggled in from neighboring countries, especially the Democratic Republic of Congo, before being re-exported. The reality was that Uganda's own domestic gold production was small, almost negligible, compared to what the world saw reflected in trade statistics. The opening of the Wagai mine completely changes that narrative. Unlike the small-scale artisanal mining that has long dominated Uganda's gold sector, Wagai represents a leap into industrial-scale extraction and refining. The facility is designed to process an astonishing 5,000 tons of ore every single day. Its projected annual output is over a metric ton of refined gold, something that puts Uganda in an entirely new league of production. It is the difference between a scattered, informal sector and a structured, modern mining economy. What makes the project even more significant is the inclusion of an on-site refinery. This isn't just a mine digging ore out of the ground. It's a fully integrated operation capable of producing gold refined to 99.99% purity. That level of refinement meets the highest international standards, turning raw ore into investment-grade bullion that can directly enter the global market. With a projected lifespan of more than 2 decades, the Wagai mine could generate revenues exceeding $100 million every year, though, of course, that depends on production stability and fluctuating global gold prices. At the center of it all is Wagai Mining, a subsidiary of the Chinese multinational Liaoning Hongda Enterprise Group. Founded in 2004, the company has built a reputation for resource extraction across China and other parts of Africa. Its general manager, Tan Juchang, has openly linked the project to China's Belt and Road Initiative, positioning it as part of Beijing's broader economic and geopolitical strategy. So let's be clear, for a $250 million investment, a Chinese firm now holds an 85% stake in an asset capable of redefining Uganda's economy for decades. This isn't simply a business venture, It is a carefully calculated political and economic move, backed at the highest levels of power. A deal like this doesn't just happen. It was the result of a deliberate, years-long strategy from Uganda's long-serving president, Yoweri Museveni. For years, Museveni has been furious about what he calls the hemorrhage of value from Africa's resources, the old model of exporting raw materials for pennies, only to buy back expensive finished goods. At the mine's commissioning in August 2025, Museveni laid out his policy. Under my leadership, we will not export unprocessed minerals. This undermines our economy. He praised Wagai for building a refinery to produce pure gold right there in Busia, arguing this was the key to unlocking the nation's wealth. The key was turning this vision into law. That came in the form of the Mining and Minerals Act of 2022, a real game changer. It created the legal framework for this deal by introducing a mandatory 15% free carry stake for the government in all large-scale mining operations. Free carry means the government gets its share without putting up any of the massive investment costs. The law was designed to attract foreign capital while ensuring the nation kept a piece of the pie. Then, in late 2024, the government announced plans for a new state-owned mining company. The goal, similar to a model used in neighboring Tanzania, is to professionalize the government's side of the business and make sure its 15% stake translates into real benefits, though this entity is still in its formative stages. The 85-15 split with Wagai wasn't some arbitrary number. It was the direct result of this new national policy. This deal is also deeply tied to China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. The mine's success relies on infrastructure, and China is a key partner in building it. President Museveni has said that revenues from the gold are earmarked to help finance projects like power plants and the country's $3.16 billion standard gauge railway. So the Wagai mine isn't a standalone project. It's a key piece in a much larger, interconnected system of Chinese-backed development designed to get African resources to the world. But away from the boardrooms and political speeches, the real story of this mine is being written on the ground, in the daily struggles and hopes of the people of Busia district. For generations, this region was home to thousands of artisanal miners who relied on gold panning for survival. These were not outsiders, but families who had lived on the land for decades, passing down the skills of prospecting from one generation to the next. They were the original pioneers of Busia's gold wealth, working with simple tools, often in dangerous conditions, but always with the conviction that the land beneath their feet was rich enough to sustain them. For these miners, the arrival of a massive industrial operation marks more than just a new chapter. It signals the end of an era. The 9 square kilometers licensed to Wagai now cover areas that once supported entire communities of artisanal miners. Fields that once buzzed with small-scale operations and provided food and livelihood are being fenced off and repurposed. The official answer to their displacement is the promise of formal employment. The mine is projected to create over 3,000 direct jobs, with the company pledging to prioritize local hiring and provide specialized training for the workforce. Yet for many, this transition is far from simple. Moving from self-employment, however risky, to the structure of wage labor represents a fundamental change to the local economy. Families who once worked independently now face the uncertainty of whether they will be absorbed into the formal system at all. And even for those who are, questions remain about wages, job security, and the ability to sustain entire households compared to the freedom, however unstable, that artisanal mining once offered. Beyond the human impact, the environmental stakes are enormous. Artisanal mining was long criticized for its unregulated use of mercury, which poisoned water sources and soils. Wagai insists it is doing things differently. The company claims to use modern industrial processes, such as cyanide leaching carried out in controlled environments, alongside closed-loop water recycling systems. They have also promised responsible waste management and eventual land rehabilitation once mining operations end. Still, the sheer scale of the project cannot be ignored. Processing 5,000 tons of rock every single day requires vast amounts of water and electricity, straining resources that are already limited in the region. Tailings dams, where chemical-laced waste is stored, pose long-term risks, and history has shown that accidents in such facilities can be devastating. Local leaders, including chairperson Stephen Wasik Mugeni, have praised the project, pointing to the economic boost and the value of the new refinery. His words reflect the duality of the community's outlook: hope for jobs, infrastructure, and development, but also a cautious awareness of what could be lost if promises are not kept. The future of Busia now hinges on whether the company and the government can balance profit with responsibility, and whether the people who first uncovered the land's riches will truly share in its rewards. So, where does this leave Uganda? The potential upsides of the Wagai gold mine are undeniable. For decades, the country has struggled with overdependence on agriculture and an informal re-export market that thrives in the shadows. The establishment of the mine presents an opportunity to shift Uganda's economic foundation, making it less reliant on unstable and informal sectors, while anchoring growth in a resource that could change the nation's future. In many ways, this project is positioned as a new pillar of the national economy. The direct financial benefits are substantial, with millions expected to be raised in taxes, royalties, and licensing fees. Uganda stands to gain new revenue streams that can be channeled into critical infrastructure. Roads, schools, hospitals, and energy projects could all benefit from this influx of capital. Beyond government revenue, the mine will create thousands of direct and indirect jobs, offering opportunities to local communities and contributing to the broader workforce. It also fits neatly into President Yoweri Museveni's long-term plan for industrialization, which envisions a Uganda that can refine its resources at home and add value before export. Yet the risks and uncertainties are equally significant. At the heart of the debate lies the issue of ownership and control. While Uganda holds a 15% stake in the project, the reality remains that 85% is controlled by a foreign company. For the next 21 years, the overwhelming majority of profits will leave Uganda, limiting the country's ability to fully benefit from its own natural wealth. There are also wider concerns. The resource curse has plagued many African nations, where sudden mineral wealth fuels corruption, inequality, and social unrest instead of development. The displacement of artisanal miners raises questions about livelihoods and justice, while potential environmental degradation could create long-lasting harm. Moreover, by relying heavily on Chinese investment, Uganda risks becoming deeply tied to Beijing's economic interests, creating a dependency that could shape national policy for generations. This is not a simple story of exploitation, nor is it an unchallenged tale of progress. Instead, it is a calculated gamble. Uganda has traded significant control over one of its most valuable resources in exchange for the promise of rapid industrialization and economic transformation. Whether that gamble pays off or leaves the country with more costs than gains remains to be seen. The buyout of Uganda's biggest gold mine is, without a doubt, a watershed moment. It's the boldest step yet in President Museveni's mission to stop exporting raw materials and start creating value at home. The deal, built on the 2022 Mining and Minerals Act, secures a permanent 15% stake for the nation, and the potential economic benefits are immense. But the deal also throws the challenges of resource nationalism into sharp relief. It raises tough questions about the long-term cost of foreign dependency, the social and environmental price of industrial mining, and whether wealth from the ground will truly build a better future for everyone. As President Museveni himself has warned, mineral wealth runs out. The money has to be used to build something permanent before all that's left are holes in the ground. Only time will tell if Uganda's gamble pays off, or if the glittering promise of gold came at too high a price. The story of the Wagai mine is happening right now, and it mirrors a tension playing out all across Africa. The conflict between national resources and foreign investment is one of the defining issues of our time. What do you think? Is this the right path for Uganda's development? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to understand the complex forces shaping our world, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more deep dives like this one.